Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Jack. Today I wanted to present all of my resources for my UI for The War Within. I've made a bunch of changes since Dragonflight, notably moving away from LVUI and moving away from Voodoo for really just better performance, better FPS, especially in like a raiding environment. And I've replaced it with a few different add-ons, notably Cell for my raid frames and shadowed unit frames for my player and boss frames. This video is going to be cut up into a bunch of chapters where I'll show you where the imports are and a couple extra settings that you might need to change around, especially for things like Weakauras with Luxthos' setup. When it comes to Cell, all you have to do is type /cell options once you download it, go to the About tab right here in the top right, and import for all of those settings, and then you'll be able to import my profile with ease. Just make sure that you're looking at the appearance section after you import it so that you can change the UI scale as you need to. There's also a indicator section and a layout section that are really important for just resizing everything. I have three main profiles. I have a key, Mythic raid, and a normie raid. This like and subscribe was just for an example when I was making a video. Doesn't really do anything. And the indicator section for all of these is going to be a little different in terms of its sizing. So if you click the show all, it'll show how everything looks all together. And when you click on the Mythic raid, it'll also show it shrunken down just a little bit more. And so if you need to make any additional adjustments, I have a 1440, 24-inch monitor. You might have something different, and this is going to be how you're adjusting those things. If you haven't checked it out already, we also have an in-depth Cell guide for a lot of customization if you're looking to dig into the nitty-gritty. There also are a number of code snippets that you can do some very niche specific things, one of which is like sorting the raid frames in a raiding environment so that you're always in like the first position on like the farthest left side. That's where these code snippets come in, and there's a lot of in-depth code snippets. If you check down here in their Discord, it's got a whole section on it in many different versions that you can use. For Luxthos Weakauras, I want to show you a couple of different things. I've made a lot of modifications to his custom auras, and while I don't have an import specifically for my modifications, I can show you really quickly what I ended up doing. Clicking the Luxthos pre section here, going into custom options. If you go to the core icons right here, I took the maximum number of icons and maxed it out so I could have a longer bar so it doesn't really stack up as much. And in the utility section, I then put this drop down here, move the top margin to 0. And that way, when you exit out of the add-on and you cast a spell, you're also going to have any of the utility buttons right below your cast bar. And so it makes it a lot easier to just sort of sort everything all together. Notably, I have some sections that I've customized with the left and right side LUAs or LWA sections. For the left side, I have defensives, and this is for all of my healers. For the right side, I have dispels, interrupts, extra utility, things like power infusion on hand. These are usually located in the utility section right here. And so all you really have to do is like grab the icon and drag it and drop it into whichever side that you would like to have. And then when you hit that right side right here, you go to the custom options, set them to always show, set the alpha to always show, and you'll be good to go. You just want to make sure all of them are going to look the same. And that way you're maxing out your left and right side icons. For the utilities themselves in this section, I basically took the entire section, clicked on it here. Again, custom options, set them to always show with a 0 alpha, basically whenever they're on cooldown. I mean, that's basically the same thing as showing on cooldown. I'm kind of debating between having a 0 alpha, so I never see them until they're on cooldown, which is basically this setting, or if I want to have them slightly visible so that I can see when they're about to come off cooldown. I've been kind of debating between which of the settings I like more, just to let you know in case things look a little different. Whenever you're updating Luxthos' add-ons and you're grabbing it from their website or using an add-on like Weakauras Companion, you're going to get a screen like this. And so if you want to make sure that the customizations that you've made are going to stay the same, what you need to do is make sure that when you get to the categories that you want to update, there's a few sections that you want to have unchecked. Some of those are load condition, custom configuration, group arrangement is going to be another one, and I believe that is going to be all of them. Trigger, you definitely want to make sure that you have fixed and corrected. And so if you make those changes and adjustments, whenever you update any of your add-ons, the custom configurations that you made are not going to change, but they're going to remove old auras. They're going to update like the rest of the Weakaura package, all of that fun stuff. The last bit that I had changed for Luxthos' auras is the dynamic effects. And so what I do is I actually have these dynamic effects start on like the left side a little bit away. And so if I put down like a turnip punching bag or something along those lines, you'll be able to see that I have it slightly adjusted. And so whenever I put it down, put up my dots, and they're a little off to the side. These are going to be a little more off center than I need to. I'm actually going to shift them over just a little bit since they kind of grow a little awkwardly from my experiences where they kind of move to the side or shift to the side a little bit too much. But basically, I'll make sure I have it a little bit more centered by the time that this goes live. I do this by going into the dynamic effects section right here, going to group, going all the way down to the bottom where these anchors are at. And since mine was a little bit too off to the side, what I'm actually going to end up doing is just kind of sliding them over just a little bit. And it's around -240 with a Y offset of about 8. So it rests just a little bit above my bars. There's more centering I'm going to do with it, of course. But when you only have like one buff present, it also slides on its own. So you might want to mess around with some of the anchor options as well. As you might have seen at the start of the video, I'm using new boss frames and player and target frames, as well as target of target frames, focus frames, all of that fun stuff. So this is shadowed unit frames. All you have to do for shadowed unit frames, I've been using this instead of LVUI. I like it a lot better. Type /SUF, go to make sure you have advanced selected so that you can then go to the layout manager. In the layout manager, you'll have your import, your export options. And again, grab the link from my paste bin in the description down below, import it in here, and you're going to be all set. My nameplate, as you can see, for the turnip punching bag is KUI nameplates. And so if you type /KNP, this will actually pull up the menu, but it doesn't actually show, for whatever reason, the profile section to import them. So what you have to do is type /KNP space import, and then it'll pull up the tab. You can import your options from there. I like this instead of Plater. It's very lightweight, very easy to use. I personally don't hyper color coordinate any of my like nameplates personally. I know some people really like to, and Plater is amazing for that if you wanted to. Personally, I usually just look at the name of the mob itself, find what that priority target is, set my focus, set my priorities, things like that from there. Next up, we have OmniCD, and with this menu, you just type /OC in game in order to have your import. When it comes to the profile sharing, it's right here at the bottom. You can then hit your import and go on your merry way. One of the big things when it comes to this add-on, they have a nice test feature. So if you click on dungeons, go to test, you can then start seeing what some of the populated, usually it actually works with showing these. If not, you can always go into a follower dungeon to test it out on your own. But what you can do is with this position, it's really important to select this add-on that you might have. Usually I just have it on auto, and it works just fine. But if it's anchoring to a different add-on or something off the screen or it just doesn't present properly, this is the area to fix it, where you go to dungeons, position, add-ons, you make sure it anchors to cell party or whatever party frames that you might be using. Details like everyone's using is very easy to set up and customize, but I'll show you some hidden things going into this as well. Profile section right here, and this is super easy to just get the import once again in the description down below to get your profile. Some very important things about this add-on. In the display section right at the top, there's a section called update interval. The faster, if you ever watch like Race to World First, and you see like the DPS meters and they're going up super high and the numbers are updating very quickly, that's what this is. The lower the update interval, the faster that things update, but this also takes a lot more resources. So one of the easiest ways really to increase your performance in a lot of cases, especially when you're in a raid, is actually to increase this update interval. The downside is if you're staring at your bars, it might take literally 2 or 3 seconds, or as a max of 3 seconds, it might take longer for it to update. But that only really matters if you're watching your DPS meter in that moment, in that specific moment. So if your FPS is just chugging, set it up to 3, it's gonna save you quite a bit of FPS. Personally, I have mine around like 1.5 or something like that. Doesn't make too big of a difference for me. There's also some really important plugins. The one I use in the top left right here is the Action Tracker. It's the Streamer plugin, things like that. It's very easy to get set up. The other one that I want to highlight is one I actually just ended up installing. It's the Advanced Death Log feature. And so what this does is it allows you to mouse over your deaths as you normally would in your usual like settings when you right click over like your titles for like healing done, and you can go to the deaths. But with the Advanced Death Log, it shows you the timeline for the deaths. It shows you what defensives or health pot, health stone, things like that they have up. And it's a really, really epic plugin to have. It's really good for understanding why somebody died, what defensives they had, the works. Definitely get it. I have a few other profiles. One of them is going to be for method raid tools. This one again is pretty straightforward, which is going down to the profile section, importing the profile as usual. The main thing that I really use this for is for the raid cooldown tracking. And so what I have is 2 separate columns, and in this raid cooldown section, you can adjust it so that I usually have like raid cooldowns from non-healers, I think is what it is, in like the right side in the second column, and then healer-based cooldowns are in like the left side. And that's how I try to best like organize my setup. And then of course you can adjust all the check marks. I also use their battle res tracker. That's what this is at the bottom right here, to be able to just sort through all of the things I need. I have a couple miscellaneous Weakauras. They're also linked in my website in the description down below. If you see things like the stats, now that I'm looking at it, if you wanted that, it's in the description. Pretty straightforward of just the usual like Weakaura imports. The last like big add-on that I had is called Mouseover Action Settings. This is /MAS. Again, profile section right here for all of the imports that you have. It's very straightforward and easy to be getting into. And what I really use this for is actually hiding my action bars whenever I'm in combat. And so I believe it's in the config section. It'll show you the time to fade out, the fade in animation speed, all of that fun stuff. And so what it does is I set it for action bar 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that way I can just mouse over them. And usually what I have is like my larger raid size of frames, like my 30-man raid frames, will overlap these action bars. But if I have them hidden anyway, it's not noticeable, right? So it keeps me, one, from looking at my action bars too much, saves a little bit of space since I have, vertical raid frames horizontal raid frames. And so as they grow down, it takes up a lot more space on the screen. This saves me a lot of space and just kind of makes things a little bit more straightforward to work with. Finally, some additional add-ons that you may or may not know about. If you're ever wondering why your FPS sucks, get this add-on called Add-on Usage. It's fantastic for getting everything set up. I use Baginator, although I'm still a little on the fence about it at the moment. Please ignore my awful bags. But this is better than AddyBags since AddyBags went kaput. Rip AddyBags, A few other add-ons that I've been using are things like Opie. Bigwigs, obviously, again, I have my profiles in the description, but they don't actually do a whole lot. But Bug Grabber and Bug Sack are really good for finding out which add-ons are bugging, which add-ons have issues, if they may not have been updated, something along those lines. These are the add-ons that you want to have so you can actually parse through it, find out what the problem is, and then actually get sort of a solution to those issues. Like I mentioned, I don't have LVY anymore, and so I've been using Frame Color to skin everything. It's just the default frame color install to just skin everything to be more uniform. And then I use ID tip so that I can mouse over an ability and then I can see the spell ID right there in case I want to add it to Cell or add it into some aura effect or something along those lines and get that covered. Otherwise, things like method raid tools or mythic dungeon tools, I should say. Minimap button bag is what I have right here for just sorting through my additional add-ons if I don't actually want to open the add-on interface section, something along those lines. Raider.io, RC Loot Council. My map is from Sexy Maps, which is also a great add-on. Highly recommend. It's very, very nice. I think Syndicator is also part of my bags. And for funsies, I have Transmog Roulette and Better Wardrobe and Transmog. I think it's the last one. Yeah, Better Wardrobe and Transmog. So these are some sick add-ons as well if you're ever into Transmog. The nice side is that it shows this extra tab, so you can find out what these like extra sets are. And you can go find like, oh, I'm missing part of this questing set, or I have this full set from, Zandalar Dungeons or something along those lines. It's pretty cool. And then I also have Transmog Roulette, which is this button right here, where I can just completely randomize my transmogs. And we do that all the time on stream for one of our channel point rewards for our Twitch viewers. So if you ever wanted to mess up my mog as we're getting into the thick of progress, that's where you can do it. That about wraps up our walkthrough of my UI. If you have any sort of questions, be sure to leave them down in the comments below. Huge thank you to our patrons for their support on the YouTube channel, helping make our UI free. If you'd like to join them, check them out as well in the description down below. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Hope you all enjoyed it. And if there's ever any updates to the UI, you can find them at AutomaticJak.com.